Hello everyone, Marion from Marion's World, and I am taking my weekly stitch journal on yet again today, and the crewel embroidery is getting ever more colourful and ever more pretty stitches. And this week there is a flower and the little hillocks and another oak leaf, all to be filled in with some different colours, different techniques, lots of lovely creative stitching. So I hope you enjoy it, and I'll see you at the end. I'm starting off this week by filling in this lovely oak leaf here. I have got this vintage Penelope in my needle, and I'm going to do a completely filled in leaf today to contrast with this open one, because crewel work is nearly always contrasting open work and filled in, like on this one here where we've got a bit of solid filling with a bit of open work. So to do that, I have actually drawn on pencil, but I thought I'd just use my pen. Somebody was asking me about the pen I use on different things, and this is just a fine liner. It's a Pilot High Tech Point, it's called, but the main thing is it's permanent pen, so it's not going to wash out. So I'm not advising you to do that on your own embroidery, but I'm doing it just so you can see what I'm doing, and I know I'll be covering it up. So I'm actually putting an extra line in here, just about half a centimetre away, and I'm going to be filling all of this edge in with satin stitch. Now I don't want my satin stitch to be all the same direction. I'd like it to follow the outline of the leaf, and so I'm going to draw in just so you can see how I'm going to arrange the stitches. And also, if you want to do your own in either pencil or disappearing pen, it might help you if you've not been laying satin stitches in like this. So to start off, we'll just think about the top of the leaf. I'm definitely going to want the stitches to be going like that. And as I get round to the side, you think of the way that the leaf veins go. So I'm going to want the stitches to be going around like that. They have to go in the way of the leaf. At least they are, for me today, that's what they have to do. And I don't want them necessarily to be coming this way around. I want them to be lying in the way I think a leaf actually grows with the leaf veins. So if I put those lines there, that's the middle. Here are the leaf veins coming out. Hope I've not just made that more confusing. So I'm going to solidly fill in this whole outline and then deal with the middle at the end. So I'll come up. I'm going to start at the middle again. I quite often start in the middles and work outwards both ways. And I will do it as my framework, just like I usually show you to do. So I'm going to go around this leaf and just lay the framework stitches in, knowing how I want them to lie. Because I've now got pencil and pen, I'm going to make sure that I'm going out of both of those lines so it's going to be covered up. But I did know that I wanted this to be solidly filled in. So I'm just going to follow those lines around, and that means that when I come back to fill them in, I've already got something that's showing me what direction to put things in. And sometimes I'll be making a tighter piece on the inside, and sometimes it'll be tighter on the outside, and it's just the way that you get used to doing it. So that's what I'm going to hopefully show you today. On this bit, the satin stitches are going to be tight on here and spread out here. The framework is going to help. So now that my framework is in, I can come back and I can fill my little outline in, just making sure that one's all right. Actually, just going to angle those a little bit down to the stalk like that, and now it just becomes a thing of just laying the stitches in the directions that you can see. I've angled those around a little bit more. I should be able to go around now, just a thread's width apart every time. I'm coming up on the outside and going down onto that border line. Whoops. And you don't need to crowd the stitches, but you definitely don't want to be able to see the fabric between them either. There's not usually any reason to take a stitch out if you've got not enough and you think, oh, I'm not going to squash another one in there. There probably will be room, and you can just put it in and the other stitches will move around it and it'll be fine. And as you can see here, I've got quite a wide bit here and a narrow bit there, and all I need to do is just keep taking my stitches down into that middle as I spread the stitches at the outside, and it's still satin stitch. They're just going tighter in the middle and wide on the outside. Now that one, there's a space. I definitely don't want to leave that space. I'm going to come up in the middle of there, and because those two stitches are quite close together, I'm just going to slide my needle in just a little bit short of the inside edge, and there you go, it's done. You've got a leeway, you've got a leeway of putting them in. And I continue on, and now I'm at the opposite thing. I've got a narrow space here and a larger space on the inside edge. And again, so I can come up on the outside, but if I come up just short of the outside, just like a millimetre inwards from the outside edge, that's going to let everything lie flatter. And because it's crewel wool, it's just going to melt together, merge together to make a really nice texture. I've got every light on today. It's absolutely pouring down here in the UK today. I think a lot of the country has bad rain. We've had storm warnings or flood warnings. I think there's so much rain expected. This orange is really nice. It's like rusty orange. There are quite a few to fan out here, so I will just put one in there and fan this one out a little bit. I'll take this thread shorter than the outside edge. I'm only going to make it here, and take my last stitch right down to the outside edge. And that's lovely. I want to come up here and just thread through. Thank you for all the lovely messages I've had about the crewel work. So many who've not done it before and are really enjoying working with wool, or just working with these lovely fill stitches and, you know, doing something a bit different. I always think there's just room for everything, every bit of embroidery. You can mix and match them up, anything. But in this particular style, which is sort of more like Jacobean, I wouldn't say this is a modern way of doing crewel work. You can do, you know, anything that you can do with stranded cotton, you can do with the wool. But this is more of quite an old-fashioned Jacobean type of a technique of doing these sort of patterns, but it's just lovely. I really like it, and I'm pleased that you've been liking it too. So thank you. It's definitely is ending up a bit of fantasy colours, but as I said last week, if you look around for some Jacobean crewel work online, you'll find that quite often they're not in what you'd call real colours. Any colour can go. If it makes you happy and you think it goes together, then just do it. I'm happy to be doing anything. Obviously, oak leaves and acorns and fantasy flowers don't really exist together, but in this Japanese crewel work, anything can exist that you want it to. Quite often they have birds or animals on too. I did think about doing an owl, but I think I just don't quite have the room for one. But most likely I might be adding a cat onto the bottom of mine, and I'll do a little boo-shaped cat at the bottom. I'm almost back up to my first framework stitch, and so I will carry on and get the other side filled in, and then decide what I'm filling the middle in with. I think I want to do some couching actually. Might be a bit of a fiddle on that funny shape. So have a think while I'm laying in the other side of my oak leaf. This is more normal for the way I stitch if I wasn't filming. My right hand takes the thread up, my left hand takes the thread down. And normally I think my hand's just in the way of the camera. But if you have a hoop in a hoop stand, you might find that's the way that you fall into doing your embroidery. Well, I'm just about out of this thread, so I will get this, I will get a new thread in and I'll finish this edge and come back with the middle of it. I've filled in all around the outside now, and I'm going to use this Appleton blue and this thrifted appley green to fill in the centre, because I want it totally filled in. I'm going to use the blue to start off and do some fly stitch as the veins of the leaf. So I've come up right at the top, put one stitch in first, and I'm going to come up at the side, straight across, I want to make them quite slanty, come up in the middle and go down with quite a small stitch. And then I'm going to do the same, I'm definitely going to do one there right out to the corners. Maybe I only need 3. Do one right to the points, up in the middle. Actually, I think I might want to double them up actually. I might just work my way back up. And I think I am going to make a double line, so just going to work back up it and just do a stitch just a little bit higher. I'll just come up right at the end of the stalk of that one. hook it down. I didn't think I wanted to originally, and then I decided I did. And shall I do another one here? I think, no, I don't think I need a double one there. So I'm going to finish this off. And I'm going to fill in the whole of the middle with fly stitch, and obviously just miss out the bits where the blue is. So I'll come up straight alongside that blue straight stitch, straight down on the other side of it, keep my loop open, and then I'll come up right at the bottom of the blue stitch. I don't really want to see any white fabric really, so I'm going to hook down that fly stitch. You can see my little blue one there. And then as the stitch works its way, whoops, got something there. As the stitch works its way down the leaf, it's going to get wider and wider. So I'm just going to widen it out a little bit there. Come over to this side. I'm always going to hook it up, hook through the loop, right on the bottom of the previous stitch. And take it down just over the wool. I'm not really making a stalk, I'm just hooking the loop down. I think I'll get one more stitch there. I might get two, but I don't think so. And come up right at the bottom of that one. That's it. And hook down right into the blue. And that looks really nice, so I'm going to carry on and do the whole of the leaf in the same way. I'll widen out the stitches until it matches the blue ones I've already put in, but keep the middle vein nice and tight, and it'll look like a little bump of a back stitch going down the middle vein. Make sure I hook them down right on the central vein. And as the stitches widen out into the lobes of the leaf, the fly stitch is just going to follow it. So right up to here, right into the point, right over to this point. Hook up in the middle to hook the loop, and hook down right into the blue. So now you can see why I laid the blue ones in first. It would have been harder leaving the spaces for the blue than it is actually just working around the blue, or whatever colour you're wanting to put the veins in with. I'm coming down to the final 2 or 3 stitches. I think another one after this should be fine. Yes, looks like I won't get one in, but actually I can see that I've got a bit here to fill in, and so I'll put one more stitch right across, and I'll take a longer stalk of the fly stitch down to fill that space in here. So I'm going to take this one down to join up with the tree. I started laying in a trellis. This time I'm not doing it diagonal, I'm doing it square on, and I started laying it with the horizontal stitches first because they were the longest, and so I'm actually using the vertical stitches to couch those downwards. And I'm using a vintage Penelope, sort of like a soft brown, or a mink sort of a brown. And I'm making regular squares, but I'm not counting threads or otherwise measuring it. I'm just doing it by eye, but I am putting them in as evenly as I can, just to say that I'm doing squares. I'm just coming back and forward, laying my line down, and if I go too far apart or too near, I just take my stitch out again and put it where I want, but I sort of can try and see where it's going to go. That one's going in a little bit there, I can see it even from the angle I'm at, so I think I'll take that stitch back and move it along a thread. There's where it was, and I'll just move it a little bit to one side, and that should straighten that line up. There you go. And it will need a perimeter right round the edge, but I'll do that right at the end. Because I haven't decided what colour that the perimeter will be. It might be in this brown colour, or it might not. I think that's the last one I need to do there. I think I'll just bring my thread up there, because if I do want the brown, I might as well use that little bit. And I'm going to couch these down with this pale green. And this is just thrifted crewel wool. Don't know whose it is or anything. And I'm going to do a tiny little cross across the intersection. And move along and do all of them. Just enough to couch it down. I'm not trying to make a big cross. I'm just putting a little tiny stitch, little tiny cross. But I'll make sure that all of my diagonals are going to face the same way. So I'm coming up bottom right to top left each time first, and crossing over the other way. And I'll do all up this row and then the other rows. And that'll be my second thread in, and then I'll be back with a third thread. I think I'm going a bit wonky there. I think that one was a bit high, but I'm just going to leave it. I really do love making these fill stitches up. Just one more stitch, one more stitch. What else can you do? And it doesn't take much to just build them up. On this one, I'm just going to get 1/2 of the stitch in really, but I'm still going to put it in. Just like I said before, the pattern carries on that way first, and I'm working backwards. That's the way. Again, I'm just aware that I'm going to face all of the diagonals in the same direction. Oh, I could have done a woven stitch here, didn't think. I've got another, and I know what I'm doing next with another colour, but I've just thought I could have done a woven wheel. That would have really looked nice on here. Might do. I might see if there's somewhere else I can do it. Amazing what a difference these little crosses are making. Can just get a cross on there, I think, quite nicely. And I'm going to just finish this piece of green thread just into this little grassy area here, I think. And I might as well just do something here. So I'll do a double running stitch first and come back down to do the rest of my running stitch, and I'll put some chain stitch leaves on. It just uses up my thread, and it's nice to use the same colour around. So a couple of little chain stitches, little detached chains to make leaves. And to finish this little piece up, I'm going to use this pink, a bit of vintage Penelope, and I'm going to just do 2 stitches going outwards as if they're the stitch pattern going on, but what I'm actually going to do is do a detached chain in each little square and make it look like a little flower. So I'm going to come up here, do my detached chain, down it goes, and down to this one. I'm not sure at the minute whether I'm going to leave a clear space between them or not, so I'll just do a full flower first. Otherwise I could have just worked along the row doing the little chain stitches in all the different directions and then come back along the other row, but I'm just going to practice it first and see what I like the look of. And now the little green cross is like the centre of the flower. Well, that's very pretty. I need to finish this one first, so this one needs a lazy daisy going this way. I was trying to work a pattern out in my head, but I'm just going to go for what I think. And so this will have a little piece going this way. And then I'm going to weave along the back, I think. Come up here and do another full little flower. So out to the 4 corners. Pink and green, always a good combination. Actually, this little pattern that I've just made up, I can just imagine it on a bigger scale. It would be really, really nice to fill in quite a big area. That's it. My pattern goes onwards. Oh, I like that a lot. Now, originally I was going to fill in every single square, and then I decided to alternate them. So I think that's nice. If that was a bigger piece, we'd have like a little path going around them. I think that's nice. I like that. And I don't feel as if, would that one, this would be the next one that would have a pattern on. So I'll just put the little bit of pink in. Actually would be a lazy daisy or a detached chain facing upwards, so I'll just put that in so that the pattern continues. There we go. So that's the next one of those on that row. Oh, super nice. I'm just going to fill in the bottom of this little island here with a bit of couching, but I don't want to introduce another colour, so I've come up right at that end. I'm going to come right across to this end because it's just a straight line really. come across there. There'll be enough stretch in that to be able to couch down. So I'm just going to self couch it with the same wool. So I haven't pulled it tight, but I'm not leaving it specifically slack. And all I'm going to do is pull that in and couch it down. And I'm going to use the same little slanting line like my crosses. And maybe come just maybe about a ½ centimetre apart. And just pull it onto the line. And it'll make a nice understated edge to the little island of flowers, which I think is super cute. And just work my way back along, pulling it in. I did think about making it with the green, but of course they're not necessarily where the green crosses would be, so I think it would have been a bit not quite in with the pattern, especially since the top line is only just above where the green crosses are. So here. It would have been a bit funny to put a green little slant line on there, so I'm happy just to do it with its own colour. And it lets the focus be on the pattern that's on the inside. Let's see how there's enough stretch. You don't have to just lay the line in and couch along. You can do it this way. It just makes a nice line as it pulls into the place. I've put another 2 stitches on there, should do it. And probably don't need one here, but I'll carry on just making them at the regular intervals so that it all just looks cohesive. I've got some colours together to do this flower, and I'm going to use this green which hasn't been on here yet. So that's just a very vintage, like my great grandma's thread. And then I've chosen that purple that's been on here, the yellow that's been here, and a blue, because I've got blue there. So I'm trying to make the whole design cohesive. So I want to replicate these colours over here a bit, and maybe some of these over to here. So I might not use all of them, but that's the colour palette that I'm going to try and stick with. So I've got the vintage green in my needle first. I'm going to start right at the back of it, right at the very far away part of the flower. I think I'm going to do chain stitch, but I'm not going to do it close like on here. Actually, I've just realised I've got a missing piece there. I haven't done that piece and I haven't gone up there, so I must put that on. But I'm going to go straight up to the point here first with a small chain stitch. Maybe I'm not going to fill it in quite as densely as the tree trunk. Actually, I'm using quite a bit of a bigger stitch for some reason. Didn't even realise I was going to do that. And I think I'm going to put some stamens on here with the same green. And I'm just going to put a few straight stitches in that are going to act as stamens, and I'm just going to do them as different lengths. I want to make these inner petals this yellow. I think I'm going to do a very close together feather stitch. If you needed a line drawn down, you could draw a line down the middle like that, just to keep you going into the right direction. but really it is just going to be almost like doing an alternate blanket stitch, because I'm going to come down to the middle and immediately go up to the top again and come the other way. So I'm doing a feather stitch actually, but I'm going to do it very close together. So I'll just go to one side of the middle line and then this side of the middle line. So it is feather stitching down. I might do something else with this. I'll see how it looks. It's just adding a different texture. So one side of the line, the other side of the line. It gives feather stitch a totally different look. Go right into the bottom actually. Oh, hello. Hello, Misty. Come to see me again. Excuse me, everyone. Misty's to go out. Come on then. There you go. She's gone out for a little walk. She'll only be out about 2 minutes. And we do have a cat flap, but she doesn't always use it. She just wants us at her beck and call, which is just cats for you. And I'm just about getting to the bottom of this, and I'll be just about there, and I'll finish that petal off like that. And I'm going to do the other one exactly the same. I definitely feel like I want an edging on here, maybe some sort of a frilly edging. So what I've done, I've come up with a toning colour, so just this deeper yellow to make an edge, and I think I'm just going to make something up. So I'm going to go under there and through the loop, so sort of like a blanket stitch. And I think I'm going to take each of my pieces and I'm going to blanket stitch around. I think that is what I'm going to do. So I'm going to use the heel of my needle and I'm going to pick up each of these feather stitch pieces of sewing, and I'm going to just blanket stitch around, so my needle's actually not going through the cloth at all. I'm just blanket stitching back around the edge of the feather stitch. Actually, that looks really nice. And I'll just go all the way around. Just pulling the stitch tight to the end of the roll, end of the length of the stitch. It's separating the feather stitch out a bit, but I quite like it. Hold on to the tension to get the next stitch on my needle. And I think I'm going to miss out those middle ones and hop straight onto this one here. Yep, I like that. So it really is just blanket stitch, but not through the fabric. Hope you can see that. That's so pretty and super quick. This one hasn't got quite the same shape as there where I went round, so I'm just going to do, just like you would on crochet, I suppose. I'm going to do 2 or 3 into the top of this one so it can turn the corner. I take it through the cloth at the end, and I think I'm going to come up and go back round. I am. So now I'm going to work into the blanket stitch that's already there. So pick up the blanket stitch loop and go back round, and it's going to give a little frilly edge, I hope. So not attached to the material at all. I'm now just putting my needle through the blanket stitch loop that I've just made and going back through it again. And this is a bit of needle lace, and I did this type of thing on the table runner with the hexies. It's the same exactly. This time I'm not attaching it to a hexie, I'm just doing it as a free-form bit of embroidery. And you don't have to pull it super tight, it's not going to unravel. I'll just go around here till I get back to the beginning again and finish that colour off. Just about back to the beginning, and occasionally I've just put 2 blanket stitches in one of the loop just to encourage it to be a bit frilly. I'm going to bring this purple in, which is a bit of Appletons. I'm going to actually blanket stitch these as well, but I'm going to make it really tight. I'm going to take a long stitch right the way up, and I'm going to do them out in both different ways, which is why I'm not starting there. I'll do this one looping this way, and I'll do that one looping that way. And I want to go straight down make the stitches tight up together and just overlapping the base of these ones. And I'm going to try and angle them round as I get further round the petal. Sort of thinking of a fuchsia type of petal that bends back on itself. I think that's what I had in mind when I was drawing it out. I haven't exactly used fuchsia colours. I'm definitely using a tighter stitch at the bottom than I am at the top, because you can see my stitches are already starting to lean round. I want them to follow this curve. And just keep angling round as far as I can get. Nearly at this point, and I might just lengthen that point off just about there. And just make sure it's, I think that's looking pretty decent, so I think I'll put my needle down there and I'll come back up to the middle, and I'm going to put the other one in the other way around. And then I'll probably come back and just fill in with a stitch there. I'll put all the blanket stitch in first. I'm back with this vintage blue Penelope, and I actually just would like to satin stitch this, but I'm definitely going to pad it up, and so I'm going to be coming through with some vertical, well, horizontal across the calyx, but some vertical stitches as you're looking at it, and I'm going to do some diagonal stitches. I want this to be quite a nice little rounded shape. Not laying these in very evenly, I'm afraid, but they're there. Okay, and then my final layer is going to be vertical to the flower but horizontal to use, up and down, and I'm not going to pull them too tight, just going to let them be on top of all that padding. I'm finishing off this little separation of the purple and the blue with 3 little back stitches, and I think I'll use this same colour to do some French knots on the end of the stamens. Actually, I'm not even going to do it with French knots. I'm going to do it with a little straight stitch. Okay, I think that's going to be me done. I decided to fill in one more acorn there, and all I've done is satin stitch in a warm brown. I put a trellis on in a pale pink, and then I've done sort of like a brownish red French knot to fill in the cap. So before next week, I think I'm going to fill in this little island and the little bits of grasses here, and then next week it'll mean that we can finish off with the big flower and the other acorn and the oak leaf. So enjoy coming up with a pattern for putting in here, or come up with a different pattern. I really like this one. I might revisit that on something else. I actually nearly put blue crosses in all of the empty squares, and then at the last minute I thought, no, I like it as it is. Well, I hope that you are really enjoying putting these stitches together. You'll have to let me know what colour combinations that you're doing, if you're doing different colours from mine, because you might have different threads altogether from the ones I've got. I must admit, my favourite little combination here is this pink and green with the little detached chain. So that's all for this week, I think, and yeah, I will see you, well, you'll see me when you next come and visit me at Marion's World. You might be going back right to the start, to the very beginning. And what have I had people have been looking at? There's a lot of people been looking at, do you know what? It's flown out of my head entirely. Anyway, there's been some old ones getting looked at. It's hard to say old ones, they were only last year, but I think it's the bird embroidery that's brought them to the forward. And don't forget to give me the like button and subscribe if you haven't, and watch another video. That's always nice. Just watch another one of my videos. You'll be amazed at all the sorts of stuff that you can find on here now. It amazes me. I'm the one that's done them. So thanks a lot, and thanks for joining me.